It's such a niche, I suppose, area, and also an area of work that not that many people are aware of.
It's also about investigation, the people looking closest at the objects often, so we find stuff out and we're part of that process. It isn't something I always wanted to do. I didn't really know about it until I got involved in archaeology, and I always wanted to be in archaeology in a very kind of childish Indiana Jones kind of way. But I soon realised it was far nicer to have someone bring you the wonderful objects than having to go and get them yourself. Yeah, removing corrosion product off things which can take days and days and days, or just scalping rust off something isn't the most fun, but it's still weirdly satisfying. It's a sense of privilege, I suppose, because that object's been in the ground for a very long time and you are the first person to spend that much time with it and look at it in that detail. People don't necessarily want to see something that looks new that is old. I can spend weeks staring at a microscope at an object. It's good to be part of that object's history. You are then forever involved in that object, which connects you, I suppose, to people of the past.
Not everything needs conservation. Sticking a pot back together is really only a kind of aesthetic thing for display. It can survive perfectly well not being stuck back together. From the age of 15, I worked as a Saturday girl in the Castle Cafe. Got to know a couple of members of staff that were regulars in the cafe. Kind of found out what they did, and they introduced me to the conservation department. And that's how it all began, really. We have 9 agents of decay, so water, temperature, humidity, all the factors that kind of contribute to an object decaying. Number 9 on that list is people, and actually it should be number 1 on that list because people break things, accidents happen, temperature and humidity have an effect on objects, but not as detrimental as someone dropping and smashing a valuable.
I kind of stumbled across it as a profession, really. I was first interested in archaeology, and I discovered that there were archaeological conservators. When I first started in the profession as a conservator, I was very much lab-based, so I concentrated most of my time on the conservation treatment of collections in the lab at the bench. Conservation isn't like that anymore because we have to communicate what we do much more. Heritage belongs to everybody. It's about making decisions that also include and involve the community, because they have an investment in their heritage too.
As a textile conservator, you don't just sit and stitch all day. That's myth number 1. You've got to be interested in history. You've got to understand the bigger picture of conservation, not just wanting to sit and stitch. People are always amazed at how long it takes to conserve textiles, just because of the type of damage that occurs and the techniques needed to do the repair work. And when I thought of restoration, I always thought of people redoing upholstery, and I didn't really connect it with something that I would want to do. We went on a group visit to Blicklin Hall, National Trust, and the Textile Conservation Studio used to be based there. And we had a tour, and I walked in and I learnt about conservation, which is more stabilising an object in the condition you find it, rather than trying to return it to its original. That resonated with me.
I think conservation is becoming more and more of a public issue. You see regularly now in the news things that have been brutally restored, and conservation ethics get mentioned. Conservation's often an invisible thing. People take it for granted that they'll get to see things in a museum. They don't know that a conservator's worked on those things or ensure that they're displayed so that their grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren will also get to see those objects. Your aim is to make any alterations to the object visible, not necessarily glaring across a room, but it is there. It was something you've added to it, and that should be allowed to be understood by an audience, really.